Your hair is glowing in the sun, your hand in mine so warmly bound. It's bright outside and bright inside. Mid-afternoon, mid-eastern, we're free to wander anywhere. No more hatred in the stairs. Everyone's busy, minds their own, so it's just me and you and no Brazilian. Not long ago, the dogs are worried about. Hello, brothers and sisters. Long time no see. It's nice to be back. I've been busy doing what some people call God's work in the woods, and I'm working hard on preparing the setting for this summer's party. For those of you who don't know, I throw a couple of parties a year, and they're more like music festivals than parties, and great occasions for people to come together and enjoy each other's presence, exchange meaningful conversations, and listen to some great music from the Philadelphia and broader tri-state area. So I've been back there cleaning up, stacking up some wood for the upcoming season, and reducing dependency on fossil fuels personally, and taking care of nature, which I have the opportunity to do, and which is a very fulfilling and peaceful thing that keeps my mind focused and my energy is channeled in the right direction. So, we have a lot has happened since the last time I broadcast, and I voluntarily took a step back and reassessed my priorities with this podcast, and also kind of to take in and filter a little bit what was being fed to us in a very crass and pretty evidently manipulating way. And at the moment where, as we speak, the war in Ukraine has been raging. Casualties are increasing, on by the thousands, and it's a pretty dismal picture. I don't really want to get into the things. I've been very vocal about what's going on there. I actually posted the Ukraine video blog uh, a month before the war started, and trying to take into account what were the different variables and what diplomacy could have done to avoid this disaster and this massacre that uh, kind of spans on the altar of hubris and profit the lives of thousands and thousands of people, which is always a tragedy. As we and multiple others said, this tragedy happens on a regular basis in many scenarios in the world, which are mostly ignored for reasons that have to do mostly with the profit and the convenience and the agendas of the ones leading these wars around the world. We're not going to get into all of that. Today, I just want to say and stay focused uh, on what is the title of this blog, which is Socialize the Losses and Privatize the Profits. So, this is leading mantra that has never spoken clearly, but it's pretty evident in Western societies where under the beautiful warm umbrella of the concept of democracy, the people that we send to power, which mostly are installed by a group of interests that have nothing to do with us, always manage uh, inevitably to rule and legislate and enact legislation and direct our taxes to benefit, lo and behold, the interests of those who put them in place. So now, this is without getting into the merits. This is a thing I've noticed a certain kind of like constants that never get stressed out. One of the main one being the concept of taxpayer money. So remember that every time that the government does something, the, it's using your money. So in the sort of theoretical, perfect scenario, you exercise the right to vote. You send people up there to legislate and government for your own maximum benefit. These people use your funds, your money, to benefit you. In a perfect scenario, this would be kind of a no-brainer, right? You campaign on certain kind of promises in which you say you'll take care of me, I give you my vote, you go up there, and then you use the collective funds of the taxpayers that elected you, the majority of the taxpayers, to fund and legislate projects and initiatives that benefit the ones that sent you there. There seems to be a small disconnect in this beautiful scenario between the legislation and what happens when people go up there and how the money is used. Now, in every single crisis that we witnessed, and let's talk about the United States because I moved here in 2006, so I've been able to witness a few crises in the past few years. At every turn of these major crises that have disrupted the lives of millions and destroyed the lives of some of them, in any of these instances, none of the government's initiatives and plans and projects and use of public funds has benefit the people. Now, this is pretty dismal and it's tragic, and the mental disconnect that people have between the concept of funds and budgets and the concept of the fact that these funds are ours to begin with is creating all sorts of problems. Let's talk about the military budget for one. So the military budget has been skyrocketing in the past 4 years to levels that are unjustified and unprecedented. The budget probably started skyrocketing after 9/11 with the excuse of keeping us safe. Let's not forget that the United States invests in military budget as much as the 10 following nations combined. And we're talking about nations like India, Russia, China, and Germany, and England or whoever else is along the line. All those combined don't equal the US military budget. This is like terrifying because it's like it's pretty easy to understand that those 570 billion, $600 billion that these figures were based upon 4 years ago already included a lot of money that is not tracked, that goes for whatever reasons that we have no control over. Let's not forget about all the history of the trillions that the Pentagon doesn't know what happened to, the untracked money. So this is not to be some kind of like pacifist or random, you know, uh, critic of investments. I would just say that when it comes to my money, I would like to know how it gets spent and if that money is the best use. So the mantra that we hear all the time, we know best, you don't know anything, so let us deal with it and we'll figure it out. So imagine like applying that in your everyday life where you give shady people with no accountability enormous amounts of your money, and then their response is like, don't worry about it, I got this, you just give me the money, I'll figure it out. I don't know if you ever happened to be in a situation in your life of this kind. It never turned out well. Likewise, in the military budget, where all these different groups are interested in getting more and more money to be able to empower the people that put them there, the people that have investments, and then the people that produce armaments and everything else, has become the reason to this constant increase of budget. Now, Trump himself upped the budget of 100 billion, which was on 600 billion a whopping 10%. Biden, in 1 year, has upped it of another 100 billion. So now we're talking about $800 billion a year that gets used for very, very untrackable purposes. So if you notice, it's pretty common that every time that we need to invest more money, there is a emergency that comes up. The militarization of space by China, or I don't know what else. The threat from Venezuela, the threat from Iran, the threat from this, the threat from that, and all this is amped up in this like rah 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 echo chamber that the mass media uses to justify something that is never has any opposition whatsoever in Congress. Now, it's pretty easy to notice that while they can find $20 billion to end homelessness or give student debt relief or give a $15 minimum wage, it's always a bitter fight based on principles. Principles where we pull ourselves up from the bootstraps and we do this and we do that and nothing gets passed. But when it comes to Mitch McConnell just saying that he wants now the budget of lethal aid provided to Ukraine up to $16 billion, there is no opposition, there is bipartisan support. Lo and behold, the leftists, Democrats, and the crazies, Republicans, all of a sudden always converge when it comes to upping the budget for military and all sorts of spending that have nothing to do, they're not going to benefit you or anybody else in the process. Now, there is a beautiful thing about the fact that this is becoming so evident that it's like anybody with an ounce of brain, if they stop 1 second and think about this, I don't think it would be even a matter of discussion. The point being, as ordinary people, we are subjected to the deranged policies of the ones on top. Deranged policies that are always enveloped in a shrine of virtue, in a little package of virtue that justifies them to some kind of dupe or chump perspective. But they're actually obviously based on benefiting the people that put them there. Let's take case in point the gas prices. Gas prices, which um, in a way reflect the economy of the United States. The economy of the United States is a petrol based economy that uses inordinate amounts of energy to transport goods, to kind of like promote a culture of immense waste of resources in order to transport A to B, and B to C, that never favors localized, energy efficient mechanism, but privileges a petrol based economy, production of oil, you know, extraction of resources from the earth, burning of this earth, contributing to global warming and everything. And is the reality of the fact. So when now prices go up, these prices are going to affect you and everybody else that actually has an income of a normal size in a disproportionate way. Now, conveniently, this hike in prices, which has been constant in the past months, in which we saw kind of like jig-jag rise and fall of prices of the crude per barrel, has been met, this like zigzag of the prices has been met by a steady rise in gas prices. That it's already kind of weird because the zigzag should be reflected in the prices at the pump. These prices have been constantly and steadily mounting over the past 6 months. And then all of a sudden, they get blamed for the crazy spikes on the Russia situation. Now, it is apparently we import a very little quantity of oil from Russia. Our main supplies are, lo and behold, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and then there's something else. I don't even know. Some national production. And all of a sudden, what's happening in Ukraine has generated this crazy spike that we're witnessing now. And while this happens, while we are being told that as good citizens, we have to fight Russians at the pump by accepting willingly that not only gas prices, but goods prices are going to skyrocket after months of mismanagement, inflation, scarcity that have nothing to do with the Russians, which have everything to do with a complete mismanagement of the COVID situation, and I think a willful mismanagement of certain kind of like logistics to create a narrative. Now, this narrative is you gotta suck it up, motherfucker, because democracy has a price. Okay, so let's break it down because while everybody brain deadly repeats this mantra that we have to pay our fair share. This reminds me of like during the fascist period to finance the crazy colonial policy of the fascist regime. Women were asked to donate their gold wedding band to, to be used to, finance the colonial enterprises of the fascist regime. So this kind of like ties into this thing that like everybody has to do their part. But while this thing sort of makes sense in a certain way, it doesn't make sense in any other way. This spike in gas prices and the skyrocketing cost of oil barrels, who's benefiting? Is benefiting exactly the economies that are based on oil sales. So these include, if one looks at them, our partners in Saudi Arabia, which are a genocidal theocracy that is currently engaged with the help of the US and the UK in genocide in Yemen. Genocide in Yemen, which is generally not talked about, sometimes blamed on the Houthis, that are the Iran proxies, as we like to call them, not actually uh, brave defenders of their country against the aggressor Saudi Arabia invasion of their country and try to overturn the government or whatever shamble is left of that government and trying to prop up a regime that benefits them. You see how this narrative it doesn't get used in Yemen, it gets used in Ukraine, but in Yemen, where our genocidal theocratical friends that are supporters of a Sunni Wahhabi fundamentalist vision of Islam are apparently allowed to do. So it benefits them. Then it benefits Iran, apparently ours and Israel arch enemy. They will get good relief. It benefits Maduro's Venezuela communist regime that we've been trying to overthrow for the past years, and let alone the mismanagement and incompetence and the whatever else the Maduro government is. We're not going to get in the merit of that. At the same time, it benefits them. And guess who benefits? Russia. The skyrocketing costs of gas and oil that is generated by these sanctions and this climate of financial devastation that this administration and the lackeys in Europe are levying against Russia as a cost for the regular people and benefits the same people that they're saying it's going to damage. So, how does this square up? I'm going to leave it to you. You can keep saying, yeah, I'm fine. like Stephen Colbert that just said the other night that he's fine paying 1, 2 more bucks per gallon. He doesn't give a fuck. Hell yeah, he's gonna pay $15 per gallon more because he drives a Tesla. So says the guy who makes $16 million a year and has become a stooge and a shield for official propaganda, who's like, farting in your face, flaunting in your face his richness and his independence from the ups and downs of the world markets because he has so much money that he doesn't give a shit. So now, while in a normal society, this would be received by the people that watch the show in a way, say like, hell no, I'm a come and torture place. No, this is actually accepted as an plausible point of view, where a guy driving $100,000 Tesla is making $60 million is telling you they're being a little bitch if gas goes from 2.79 a gallon to $5 a gallon, if your groceries increase of 30-40%, and then you say, what does this have anything to do with Russia and what's happening in Ukraine? And how is this going to bankrupting a country is going to benefit democracy? These empty words, are they going to be relevant to you? They aren't. You're just being played in order to do what? Right now, everybody's going to start screaming, we got to be energy efficient. We got to be energy independent. And how are we going to do that? We're going to frack more and drill more. So now, think about the upside downness of the whole thing, where the people that are supposedly passing, the leftists that are supposedly passing an agenda of green energy and green production, that despite the mega majority in the House and the Senate, they can't pass. All of a sudden, they are implementing measures that will make the vast majority scream for reopening the Keystone Pipeline, for drilling in the natural parks and natural reserves, for fracking the hell out of this country and contaminating the soil and everything. So there will be the public will to drill more and destroy more and double down on everything that they say is obsolete. So, how does this square up? Why do you think everybody's telling you that you're a little bitch if you complain about a 30% increase, 40% increase in the costs of your food and primary needs, 100% doubling in the cost of gas? I know how much I paid in gas to heat up this house this winter, and it's twice what I paid last winter. So, but you're gonna be a little bitch, and you have to shut up. And if you don't like it, you are a terrorist. Yeah, because, oh, the State Department just said that disinformation is now equal to domestic terrorism. So now let's all take a deep breath and a step back and try to understand without using the rah 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 how it is possible to prop up democracy by using bombs, by killing people, by arming and slaughtering civilians in the case of Ukraine. How is it possible that no one is advocating for a diplomatic solution? There was a diplomatic solution. It was willingly ignored, and this was pushed instead. Now, this is also destroying your quality of life. And you have to support democracy by giving your money to genocidal theocracies and regimes around the world. because that's how it's going to support democracy. So let's go back even a little bit more to kind of paint a picture. Like in 2008, the financial crisis. The financial crisis was generated by the banks, by their predatory investments, their reckless speculations. The American investment banks destroyed the financial system. When everything was going to shit, when people were losing their homes by the hundreds of thousands, what did the government do? The government gave the bankers, free of charge, 0% interest, trillions of dollars to get them back on track. And then they paid it back, if they paid it back. We don't know that. They paid it back at zero interest. Now, let's revert the scenario. What did the government do for the regular people? They didn't do shit. You lost your home. That's it. The banks were back on their feet. The car manufacturers were back on their feet. All the big powers were back on their feet in this crisis. What kind of money do you think the government used to get them back on your feet, on their feet? It used your money. So the government appropriated funds from the people, gave it to special interests to protect their ass at zero interest, and didn't give anything to you. You went down, they stayed up. That's how it works. Privatize the profits, socialize the losses. This is a socialist country. It's a socialist country for the oligarchy. Let's take another crisis, COVID. COVID, during the COVID period, the government chose a certain kind of path that now, by the day, is being discredited and shown for what they are, for what it is, an upward transfer of wealth of proportions that are unprecedented in the history of humankind, where billionaires and trillionaires increase their profits of 100, 400, 700, 1,000%. And you lost everything. The few cheap change that was given to you was nothing. But let's not forget this: the banks, the big industry, again, they were given trillions of dollars. This completely untold of on the mainstream media. And you were given cheap change. The unemployment thing that lasted for a while was good until it lasted. And then it was removed by whom? This administration. As soon as it got in power, the leftist administration. And the few chump change that you were given, the few thousands of dollars that were given, to some, they were something, the equivalent of a couple of months' rent for 2 years shutdown of the economy. And then, again, that was it. You lost a lot. And the ones who had made even more. Socialize the losses, privatize the profits. Let's come to to guess. As like I want to go back to Colbert, because Colbert, like when I came to the United States, was actually this very um, poignant voice comedian that did this take of pretending to be an ultra conservative, kind of exposed the incongruencies and the stupidity of certain arguments and everything. Now he's been upgraded to the late night show, so now he started working for the oligarchy. He was already the oligarchy back then, but not that much. There was a little bit of free voice. I went to the rally, Let's Take It Down a Notch for America, the one that he and Jon Stewart did at the highest of the crazies in 2006 or 2007. And actually, my bad, in 2010. And that's when they shifted. Jon Stewart was kicked out because he kept a certain kind of line, and Colbert decided to become the character that he was portraying, and now is leading the late night show. So, how about this? Why doesn't anybody propose this? That in time of war, because this is what we are in a time of war, apparently, because the United States decided that it's going to intervene in this war directly or indirectly. It's already done enough provoking this war or leading to the events that have provoked this war. Now it's doing even more. It's talking about sending airplanes and everything. When you provide $16 billion of lethal aid to a country to fight another, does that bring you in war to war with this country? Is this country allowed to go to war with Russia without congressional authorization? Is this normal? Is it okay if China gives, let's say, separatists in this country or anywhere else $16 billion in lethal weapons to attack American interests wherever they are? Let's say that China, let's say China does war. Let's bring it to Syria. Let's bring like a theater we're not familiar with. So in this moment, the United States is in Syria illegally, outside of any UN mandate, but buttressing up a coalition of communist militias, Kurdish militias, and ragtag Arabic fighters in the east of the country, appropriating Syrian oil outside of any legal authorization or mandate or right for the love of God, appropriating the entirety of Syrian wheat production, applying maximum pressure sanctions against the Assad regime that we don't like, that actually has the vote of 80% of the population. So the United States is doing in Syria in this moment exactly what Russia is doing in Ukraine at the same moment. Let alone that nobody talks about this. And I'm not like into, oh, look at this, look at that. But you gotta look at this and look at that. Okay, now let's talk about in this scenario where the United States is the invader, right? Where is doing something that we say is bad. We're doing it right now. In a theater of war where we send lethal aid to arm Al Qaeda proxies and ISIS to overthrow Saddam Hussein, that has cost the life of 700,000 Syrians. The civil war in Syria that we funded, pushed for, and now actively intervened as of 2015, occupying a third of the country illegally outside of any UN mandate, has cost the life of 700,000 people that nobody talked about, except for when it benefited us saying that Assad was slaughtering his people. Okay, now we are exactly at the moment in the scenario that Russia is in, with the difference that Russia is next door, theoretically protecting a third of Ukraine's Russian speaking population. Theoretically, let's say it's all bullshit. We are in Syria protecting what? We're not doing anything. We're stealing their oil and their wheat and applying maximum pressure sanctions to destroy a country by collective punishment of its people. This is a war crime. So we are in Syria perpetrating a war crime since 2015. Okay, let's say that now somebody that is a friend of Syria's, let's say Iran, let's say China, let's say Russia, he starts sending billions and billions of dollars of weapons to specifically target American bases and interests in the region. Democracy, right? You can have it both ways. Do you think that that would be seen by the United States as a declaration of war, despite the fact that they are an occupying force, and as such, the Syrians are entitled for international law to apply a resistance? Yes. And it's still the US. If Russia was directly arming proxies in the region to directly attack the United States, it will be war. Now, to go back to the whole thing, arms manufacturers record profits this year. They're bragging about it. They're saying how good this is for their business. And I'm not kidding. They're literally bragging about how good this is for their business. Their profits have skyrocketed. Oil producers are incredibly benefiting from this. Having their, the price of liquefied natural gas has tripled in the past months. And the normal people are paying the price for this. So, at the end, all things considered, this concept of benefiting democracy and fighting for democracy is always the same old adagio: socialize the losses and privatize the profits. And with this, I wish you a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. Please click on the little bell and make sure that you get all the notifications so you see when I go live, and you can watch the replay later. Also, when I said I would go online, I was told that I would be shadow banned immediately, and it's pretty much happening. So make sure that you hit all notifications button, not just the little bell, but all notifications, so that you can actually be alerted when I post something new. Please comment on the thread if you like what you see. Please comment on the thread, and then let's start a discussion, because I love engaging in meaningful discussions with people. And if you haven't had a chance regarding my position on what's going on in Ukraine and everything else, please look at my Instagram, The Late Saint, or my Facebook page, Jacopo De Nicola. I post a lot of time. I don't have time to go back into that right now. And things are so polarized that I don't really necessarily want to. I just want to keep focusing from now on the things that we can do as people to kind of counteract and deflect the massive mind control wave that has been unleashed by the propaganda on us, trying to divide us and pit us against each other, when the ones that know how to make the money out of this keep making their money. Peace, y'all. See you next time. Hey, 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 hey.
Your hair is glowing in the sun, your hand in mine so warmly bound. It's bright outside and bright inside. Mid-afternoon, minister, we're free to wander anywhere. No more hatred in the stairs. Everyone's busy, minds their own, so it's just me and you and no.